Hey, deserving listeners, 90 Day Fiancé, let's watch.
No, we come to bar to have a fun in a group. I mean, it's just such a horrible moment when you start pulling me in this bar. It's embarrassing.
You were practically exposed up there.
You should support me.
You were dressed like a whore.
Okay, so to catch you up, they're talking the day after having gone to the bar, club place, and this is a conversation about what had happened last night, in which she was dancing on the bar and he was telling her to stop doing that or something. And I don't know if I showed the clip, but he's saying that it hurts he's not saying hurts his feelings, but that's what's implied, I think, by her dancing the way one would if they were single, or not being concerned about his feelings, or her expressing her sexuality, so to speak, to the world, but not to him, because he not only wants to have sex with her, and it sounds like they're not, or it's infrequent, but he also wants to have a kid. And so those are the two main complaints that he has. And yeah, you could see how that would be a little ironic, right? That it's just like, wait, so you won't be sexual with me, but you will with the world in that way. Now, she could argue that's not sexual. That's just me having fun. I used to be a go-go dancer. I wasn't exposed. I was just having fun, and you could have had fun too. You could have joined in. You just decided not to, whatever. So there's that. And, as I've been saying, it's her body. She gets to do with what she wants to with it. And he can certainly make a request, but he can't demand, and he can't claim that he has ownership or that she's a whore, which is, as we call slut shaming. There's so many other ways to communicate this. I think his feelings are valid underneath all of it, which is to feel rejected, to feel lonely, to feel neglected, or to have needs that aren't being met, to worry about the long-term nature of their relationship, if this is the way it's going to be. Will this deteriorate their love and affection for each other? Will they ever have a family? All those feelings are fine. Resorting to name-calling is not great. I can't recall, I haven't watched all the seasons with them, but I can't recall seeing this kind of behavior from him, which is worrisome. I don't know if it's shenanigans. I don't know if this is happening behind the scenes. It wasn't my impression anyway. But I think this is evidence that he's kind of hitting a wall a little bit. And I think what he's looking for, this is why they need therapists to be involved in these conversations. They're in the therapy resort, and they are having these, all the important therapeutic conversations are happening not with the therapist there. And then when the therapists are there, they do these like silly exercises that arguably have no help at all. Or maybe they do, I don't know. But certainly this would be a moment where a couple of therapists would help. And what I would do, this is really easy work in couple therapy. I would try to help him understand where he's coming from, the feelings. I would say, tell me more about the feelings. Let's not name call. That's not okay. But the name calling is motivated from a place of hurt, usually, I'm guessing. So what's the pain that you're feeling? Try to get that out. If she hears that, it's going to be a lot less hurtful to her if he's not calling her names. It'll help him to understand what's going on underneath it. And then I can facilitate understanding. I could turn to her and say, can you understand how he would feel? You don't have to agree with it. You don't have to say you were wrong. But can you understand how he would feel that way within reason? Like part of her could say, well, I don't agree with this notion that somehow he owns my body, or he can tell me what to do, or he can embarrass me in front of everyone. But yeah, I can understand that he would feel hurt that I'm not having sex with him. I have my reasons, but I understand that. And I also understand that as a guy, maybe this would be kind of bothersome on some level. I don't agree with that, but yeah, I could, that's what therapy can do. But without it, then things spin out of control, and then you resort to not only name calling, but you also will be so frustrated because you're not being heard. This is, when they say that marriages end because of sex and money, I think it is what they say, or maybe chores or something is also in there. like division of labor. And yeah, when you ask people, what did you fight about? But the real issue is the fighting, the way they talk to each other. It's not the money. Money doesn't cause the problem. There's always problems in the world: money, chores, sex. There's always going to be potential conflict. It's the way that people talk to each other. It's the way that they think about their emotions. It's the self-awareness, the vulnerability that they're able to just even convey to their own selves, let alone to the other person, the empathy, the giving each other the benefit of the doubt, the understanding empathy of like, even though he just called me a name, where is that coming from other than him just being a narcissist?
You are my husband, you should be my side, and you call me a whore. What is not appropriate for husband call this wife?
You were dancing on the bar.
That is not what whore doing. I do whatever I want with my body.
Right. I'm really glad she said that. I don't know her background very well. I don't know where she comes from, what cultural pocket, what understanding, what feminist ideals she might carry. So her saying that is an indicator that she knows her rights, which is good. This episode is sponsored by BetterHelp. And if you sign up, please use the link below because that really helps us out. So it's December, y'all. It's the holidays. I don't know about you, but I love all the family holiday traditions in my family, many of which go back to before I was born. But when I think about it, most of the holiday traditions were developed rather recently, like how we put up the Christmas tree right after Halloween so we can enjoy it longer. Can you tell that I really like Christmas? Well, that got me thinking about traditions in general, and I thought how we can start traditions at any time, but we have to take notice of our lives and be intentional about it. Like, why can't a holiday tradition be to take care of yourself? Like, going to therapy could be a holiday tradition. Well, BetterHelp might be a good option since it's online and super easy to schedule. And for 12 years, BetterHelp has been fine-tuning their process of matching people with the right therapist. So, this December, start a new tradition by taking care of you. Our listeners get 10% off at betterhelp.com/Kirk. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/Kirk.
She said you invite her privately and you kind of hit it on her. It's what she says.
Okay. Well, I can tell you that I've never hit on her, and I approached her as a friend.
A friend who you invite randomly to
And
Vegas?
you don't even know what happened. And made
Just
it
you're
incredibly
whore. You're
difficult.
whore. Low class, low key whore.
Oh, word of the day is whore. WHORE, whore. Repeat after me, kids. Okay. Yeah. I don't, I've already been over it. I don't know. So to give you context, Josh wants to have kind of a wrap up conversation with Natalie to maybe kind of make up, but not really because he's leaving the resort. I didn't know that that was on the table as quickly as it was. It makes sense though. I mean, they're extremely casual daters, if that really. And he has seen this before. Actually, this is kind of reassuring to me that what we've seen on the show might be more real. I've been wondering about where he is on the spectrum of realness because there are questions as to whether or not he's just on the show to boost his brand because he has some kind of business. So that'll happen sometimes. But, in the beginning, the way that he was involved with Natalie, when things got heated and Natalie would do her thing, he would be kind of distant but not triggered, like the way someone would react when they don't really care. When they're just like, okay, well, I can take or leave this relationship. And so I have been wondering how involved he is. And I think giving him the benefit of the doubt, which, I think if I was to put money on something, I would say that this is probably what's happening for him, is that over the past 3 years, he has had a very on and off relationship with her and other women that he is casually dating. In all likelihood, I'm just taking a guess. And he's mainly focused on his kids and having a good working relationship with his ex-wife and his business. And he in the socializing times will socialize probably with friends and with casual dating. And for various reasons, he might even have a vow that he's not going to commit to anybody because of kids or having made mistakes in the past, or he just doesn't want to complicate his life or whatever, something like that. I imagine he gets a lot of his attachment needs through his family, and he doesn't really need to have a companion right now because he has companionship in other relationships, maybe even with his ex-wife. He seems like, from my memory, it could be wrong about that. It was years ago that I remember seeing that scene. Anyway, so imagine that that's what's happening. I also, and I've said this before, that I think Josh, if I were his friend, I would say, at what point is it kind of cruel to continue to involve yourself with Natalie? I mean, you're both grown adults, and she is a smart woman. She has choices, but clearly she is suffering and wants you much more than you want her. And she probably doesn't have the ability to navigate her life in a way that actually makes sense for her own needs. For her to continue to be involved with you, maybe Natalie has a casual dater inside of her, but there's a pretty strong possibility that she's just putting up with casual dating because she's waiting for you to come around. And it is not your fault that she's doing that, and you're not lying to her. You're being absolutely straightforward with her. But at what point is it an altruistic act to, stop entertaining that relationship with her? There are other people that can handle casual dating relationships. So I think that's what's happening for him. And over time, I've been wondering, like, how does he handle her blow-ups? Because from my memory, like, their second day together, she had a huge blow-up in the hotel room that she was staying in LA because he had to go to work that day. And he had told her prior to her coming to LA, or I think she was living in Florida. I think it was Single Life, the 90 Day Fiancé spinoff. And she was visiting for a few days, and he had told her prior to her coming out, like, by the way, I have to work at times. And so he was just going to work. That was all he was doing. And she had a complete meltdown, just hostile, crying, fetal position. Not her fault. She is not in control of that, clearly, right? And I thought, well, he is going to back into the bushes like Homer Simpson at this point, right? But he didn't. He stuck around, and I just thought, either he's like really zen, or he really does like her, which I think is also true. I think we've seen enough of Natalie to, at least for me, to conclude that most of, okay, what I'll say is that for people with this kind of reactivity and possibly these kinds of schemas and traumas, which I don't know what's going on with her at all. We've never heard anything about her early childhood from my memory. Maybe bits and pieces like her dad, or anyway. So clearly, if this is a representation of who she is, she has some pretty classic schemas that are at play. And for these people, sometimes they can actually be intoxicatingly attractive because of how they wear their heart on their sleeve, and how needy they are, and how grasping they are, and how validating they can be, right? The person is focused on you, and they are not distant. And when you are there, they love you, right? It's not just adult companionship love. It's also kind of akin to child-parent love, where the child is reunited. The way if you've ever seen, if you have kids and you've arrived at daycare and your kid, I would see this all the time growing up in my house. My mom had a daycare in our house, and I would see the kids. Sometimes the parents would just come in and out, of our house, our front door. And we didn't have a gigantic house. My parents aren't fond of me saying we lived in a small house, the six of us. It wasn't a small house, but it wasn't ginormous. Let's just put it that way. Meaning that there was a pretty good. We didn't have a foyer. Let's put it that. You opened the door and you were in the living room, and so. I guess that's what all I'm saying. And so I would sometimes just be out and about in the house at age 13 or something. And a parent would come in the house sometimes and the kid would not have noticed because parents were coming in and out all the time. So the kid's like playing and the parent would walk in, and especially with a new kid, a kid that was, the first month of being in the daycare, and the kids were all preschool for the most part. So, 3, 4, 5 years old. And I would kind of watch the kid because the kid's just, casually playing, because I knew that as soon as the kid realized that his parent was there, he was going to flip out, and that's what would happen. It was sort of like, those viral videos of like a guy comes back from military early or something, and he's been gone for 9 months, and he's standing behind his mom, and the mom's just kind of like, and everyone's filming, going like, "Ooh, her son's right behind him." It's that kind of thing. The ones I really love is when a dog is reunited with their owners. Oh God, I just love those so much. Anyway, so for that kind of neediness that a child will exhibit, that sort of all-encompassing, "Oh my God, you're here! Oh, I need you, and I love you, and don't ever leave me." That feels good when you receive that as a parent. It feels good when you receive it as a dating partner or as a partner, as a spouse. When your partner, when you actually, okay, tangent time. So when we were kids, there were a lot of kids that lived just right next door to me. My 3 best friends, actually, there were 2 brothers on one side and then a guy on the other side, and all 4 of us were best friends. But just a few houses away from that, there were all these other kids. And so we would just, in the 70s, it was unsupervised activities at the age of 3, 4, and 5. And, no one knew where we were. We were just in the woods doing, playing cops and robbers or something. And we had seen enough movies and TV to know that there was this trope of 2 lovers seeing each other from across the mall or from across a meadow, and they see each other and they run to each other, and then they hug, and then the camera spins around, and the swelling of the romantic music. And so we decided that we were going to recreate that. And I and this girl in the neighborhood, we were designated as the 2 lovers from across the meadow. And we were literally in a meadow, and all my friends were all, 10, 15 kids were like, "Okay, we've set it up, now go." And we didn't know what we were doing because we don't know what romance is or any of that. We just thought this is what you're supposed to do. And so we did that. Anyway, my point is that when you have that experience of just being reunited and seeing someone so happy to see you, well, people like Natalie can be that way every day. Because of their issues, because of their neediness. But there's a dark side to that, which is that they're easily triggered. They need too much. They can be suffocating. They can be demanding. They can be abusive. They can be overly hurt and feel overly justified in harming or something. And so I imagine that for Josh, it has something to do with that. That on one hand, he actually gets a lot of his needs met because he comes across as a bit of a calculated person. He doesn't wear his heart on his sleeve, And for those people, they often are attracted to people like Natalie because they draw out their inner child, their inner needs. The Natalies of the world will bridge that gap for the Joshes of the world, and it's intoxicating. It is addictive in some ways, and addicting in some ways. And so for Josh, I wonder, I don't know, but I imagine that this is the story. And so there's a lot of clues of this. But over time, he started to see the dark side of this and bowed out. Plus, it was easy for him to do that because they I don't know if they've ever lived in the same town. So it was always long distance, right? So I think he would do that. And then maybe a few months would go by and the dark side would fade from his memory. he would start dating again, or he would hear things from her or see things in her that maybe she's changed, and he starts to date her again. And maybe he even thinks, well, things will probably get weird again, and I'll just cut it off, or we're only going to see each other for a few days anyway, so what's the diff? But I do really get a lot out of it. They talk about their physical side, but whenever there's a physical side, there's almost always an emotional side that's going along with the physical side, right, during the physical side. But I also imagine that it does, there's a lot of emotional needs that both are being, both needs are being met for both people. And for Natalie, I think it might be hard for her to date casually because of these reasons, but also it might be hard for her to keep people around for a long period of time because of the way that she can be sometimes, or her trust issues or something. And I think someone like Josh actually might be something that she falls back on. I imagine that if she found someone else in the interim while they're off their relationship, that she would not want to be with Josh. This is my guess. But Josh is a safe bet, right? He sticks around and he doesn't flip out, and he doesn't overreact. He doesn't react to much at all, honestly. So there's all that. Now, on the topic of whether or not he was actually hitting on Sophie, I don't know. It seems like he was probably at least kind of hitting on Sophie. And he either doesn't want to admit that, or I'm wrong about that, or something. Who knows? But he doesn't want. But he has enough plausible deniability because there's nothing in the text exchange that is explicitly hitting on Sophie. Sophie says that he invited her to Vegas, but he says, no, I just said, have you ever been to Vegas? I'm going to Vegas. Have you ever been? So there's kind of like testing the waters, fishing, or maybe, but I don't know, maybe he was just casually talking. It doesn't really matter because he's single. Sophie wasn't, which is, a dirtbag move from him, but we don't even know what he was doing exactly. Anyway, so I think that for Josh, by agreeing to be on the show, it was an opportunity to be on the show, which I'm guessing he has some motivation to do. And he also, I think there's a small part of him that wondered if the therapy would actually help, and they could maybe deepen their relationship somewhat. Not move in together, not get married, not have kids, not even necessarily be in a committed relationship, but maybe have more contact, whatever is above their on and off again casual relationship. I think he was actually wondering if that was true, because you would imagine that, okay, it's a therapy resort. This is the avenue that, if anything was going to work, it would be this. And then on the second night or something, she has a violent reaction to something that she doesn't even know anything about, and completely flips out and yells at everyone, calling him a whore, all this kind of stuff, a hooker, and calling multiple people this. And he has seen this a number of times, and he's like, oh, well, if this is the way it's going to be. So by the fact that he's leaving, seemingly anyway, I don't know, maybe he'll stay. I think it actually, as I've been saying, lends to the credibility of his presentation. Because if he was just in it for the money or the clout or the show, he would stay, because he's not really invested in this in an authentic way. Ironically, I think from the audience perspective, it could look like he's not in it in an authentic way because he's leaving so soon. But I think it's actually kind of the opposite, is my guess. Now, some of you might be thinking, wow, you really like Josh, don't you? I don't. I like both of them, or I don't like. I mean, I know Natalie a lot better, and I feel for Natalie a lot. I specialize in treating people like this, and you can't do that willingly for 30 years without having a great affection for these individuals, or having a lot of empathy. And I do, and I imagine that if Natalie were a client, I think we would get along fine. If Natalie were even like an acquaintance or something, I imagine we get along fine. Josh too. I think it's tempting to draw sides or something like this. But anyway, so let's see how this conversation goes.
Okay.
You everything that works. And I cannot be next to you because I'm afraid to catch something by even air.
Yeah,
Man.
I'm a little afraid that I might catch crazy if we keep going this. So, listen, I gotta go. Good luck with everybody. I hope that you apologize to everybody because they deserve it.
Yeah. There are times when I seriously worry about Natalie. Like suicide, worry about suicide. Or something else. I don't know. I don't know if it's just her stare that she's had in these moments. Like, this is a different version. But she is... I think she's real. I don't think she's faking any of this stuff. I mean, maybe there's a little bit of leaning into it for the cameras. I don't know. And we also don't know what the conversations are like behind closed doors with the production. We also don't even know if they've shot this scene 5 times, which sometimes they'll do. And all of it is shenanigans. We just can't tell. But if I just put myself in her shoes, even if I don't relate to the way she sees the world, she is now in a position where she believes that everyone hates her, and she is now being dumped, humiliated on camera, and she is alone. I didn't show this scene, but in the previous night, Julia was trying to comfort Natalie, and it was, seemingly going well. They both speak the same language, this kind of thing. I think they kind of understand each other, but I also think Natalie doesn't really like Julia for some reason. But anyway, they were talking, and Natalie said in this, through tears, she says, well, Julia, you can't relate because at least you're married. And then Natalie really broke down. So it says something of, I think it was a realization in that moment to put it into words, what she wants, what she doesn't have, what she's always wanted, and what she has never had. All right, well, that does it for that episode. Everyone out there, please take care of yourself because you deserve it. You really, really do.